Ladies and gentlemen, oh my god, have we finally discovered it? Have we finally discovered the perfect anime? Kind of. Maybe. We'll see. Do we have a main character whose backstory is dark and tragic and he has to overcome so many obstacles? Check. Do we have a whole bunch of companions with all kinds of different personalities and abilities here and there that are just absolutely amazing? Check. Do we have several teachers and mentors here and there to our main characters who spur the story on and keep things moving? Check, check, and check. And most notably, do we have the childhood friend who is basically the main character's love interest, who's been with him the entire time and he just hasn't realized it yet? Oh wait, she's his sister? You gotta be goddamn kidding me. What's up everybody, my name is DangerDoug, thank you so much for watching this video. We today are reviewing Demon Slayer and I cannot be even more excited for this one. We have been waiting a long time to do this and I want to make sure that you guys get the best possible content out of me. But before we get into it, let's rewind the clock a little bit back here and there to about the mid-2000s here and there when I was just a little mid-teenager here and there too, basically watching Inuyasha and Adult Swim. Think back to when I was a teenager and thinking like, okay, well I've seen Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, a couple of other different ones here and there too, Yu Yu Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin, and those were all well and good, but there was a bunch of different late night shows that I want to say that didn't really catch my attention until I started watching Adult Swim. Now, of course, you had shows like Family Guy and Futurama and a couple of other different ones here and there that would come about around those times. But there was a section that was partitioned off specifically for, let's say, more mature animes. And one of the ones that always caught my attention way back when was Inuyasha. Why? Because teenage me thought it was pretty cool to see hot girls in anime and kicking ass with demons and stuff like that. So crazy stuff, but yes, fond memories to be sure. But when I think back to those days, what really enthralled me about the show was a lot of the tragic backstories that a lot of those characters had. And again, those ones just blew my mind exactly how bad it really got for a lot of those people. And especially so for characters like Sango here and there, where her entire family is basically massacred here and there, and she kind of has to pick up the slack here and there to try to rescue her little brother Kohaku here and there too from the clutches of the evil demon Naraku. And the reason why I'm bringing this up here and there too is that it draws a lot of parallels with Inuyasha, Demon Slayer does, when I really think back on it. And again, you had insanely good music, the entire package was there, you had characters that had to go through extensive training here and there in order to actually take down a lot of enemies. But fast forward to today and we get something that looks as good as this? Holy crap. So freaking cool. Demon Slayer is a 26-episode dark fantasy action-adventure anime that was centered around a young boy by the name of Tanjiro, who becomes a demon slayer after witnessing the massacre of pretty much every member in his entire family, except for one, his sister Nezuko. Now, even though his sister is the only one who survives the onslaught, even though she's badly hurt, he finds out later that she is transformed into a demon. And we get this heartbreaking sequence here and there too of him basically trying to reconcile this whole thing in his entire head as to what he's even going to do with this, and he basically vows to cure her of her demon nature and transform her back into a human. This swordsman stops him and essentially says, hey, you know what? I see your sister's transformed into a demon. I'm going to kill her because that's my job. And she's gone, dude. You're not going to change her back. But after pleading with the swordsman, whom he finds out is part of the Demon Slayer Corp, Tanjiro is able to have him spare her life and release her back into his care. And then, of course, like any other good hero, he undergoes intensive training in order to become part of the Demon Slayer Corps himself. And his mission throughout the entire show is to find a way to cure her and bring her back to being a human again. This incredible show follows the manga by, say his name right, Koyoharu Gotoge, which was debuted around 2016 timeframe, and it was even continuing into this year, 2020. But as you can imagine, not all of the manga has been adapted into anime show format, and with only about the first 6 volumes actually being part of this first season. And of course, we got a new movie coming out around October 2020 timeframe, which is going to be debuting, which is going to be about covering, I want to say the 7th, maybe a little bit of the 8th volume, but we'll see. But back when Demon Slayer as an anime for this first season was released back in 2019, near the end of the decade, it took the anime world by storm. It has received critical acclaim from audiences around the world, receiving notable awards including Best Boy for Tanjiro, Best Fight Scene for episode 19, holy crap, that was crazy, and Anime of the Year for 2019 by Crunchyroll Awards, just to name a few. And in short, there are a lot of fans of this anime, including the very critical critics who have to be very critical about these things before bestowing critical acclaim on them. You kind of get the point. But before we go into our main characters, I have to establish a couple of ground rules first concerning demons and demon slayers. So let's talk about demons. Now, demons have superhuman strength, superhuman speed, and the ability to regenerate from wounds, among many other unique abilities that might be more like their own singular type of thing. The only known ways of killing demons are by exposing them to sunlight, or by poison from the wisteria plant, or by decapitating them from these specially made swords that are unique to the Demon Slayer Corps, called Nichirin swords. Nichirin swords are essentially like a type of special sword that's made from a special ore that's on top of a mountain that's exposed to sunlight pretty much all day. Essentially, it's above the clouds, and I know that nighttime is allowed to exist, but at the same time, it's above the clouds, so it gets much more sunlight exposure than, let's say, a normal mountain does. Now, the primary antagonist here and there was the original demon that was first transformed about 1,000 years ago, and consequently, demons and humans, especially the Demon Slayer Corps, have been at war with each other for about 1,000 years now. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of hatred between demons and humans. Especially so since they've been killing each other for 1,000 years. And then you get into the Demon Slayer Corps, which is essentially the other group that I wanted to really touch upon here and there. And they're an organization that, you guessed it, is dedicated to slaying demons. But they're not formally recognized by the Japanese government, so they're not like a government-sanctioned organization. They're kind of like a pseudo-military here and there too. And they kind of organize themselves as such. The members of the Demon Slayers were not initially a big threat to the demons here and there too, until they discovered the power of total concentration breathing. Total concentration breathing is essentially this type of meditative state here and there too, where you basically take in a lot of air and just kind of use it to make your blood and your muscles kind of rush here and there too for enhanced speed and power, essentially. The Demon Slayers then figured out that they could do a little bit more with the breathing techniques that they were given by aligning it with certain elemental type of things. Some of those things being fire, water, lightning, but there were also a couple of animalistic ones here and there too, like insect or serpent or beast forms. But a lot of those techniques greatly enhances the user's ability to heal themselves, but also to really go out and slay demons. And again, the group is organized in sort of a hierarchy in like a pseudo-military fashion, but the one kind of circle that I want you guys to pay attention to is the Hashiras. The Hashiras are masters of their techniques. I mean, they basically have the water Hashira, you have the ground Hashira, the wind Hashira, serpent, and so many more. But they are some of the most well-respected swordsmen, and they serve directly under the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps. And now that we've established a lot of these ground rules here and there too about what the universe is all about and kind of world building type of things as to what the demons are all about and what the Demon Slayers are all about, let's talk about our main cast of characters. First up, we have Tanjiro Kamado, and this guy is our main leading male protagonist. He is the eldest son of the Kamado family, and essentially he's kind of the man of the house here and there too, following the death of his father, but his mother survived and so have his brothers and sisters. His family's business is selling charcoal, which he is seen doing at the start of the show, essentially, by going out to the local town and going out to sell them charcoal. He's good-natured, he's very cheerful, he's very determined here and there to be a good example to a lot of his younger siblings, and especially so since, yes, his father passed away and he's kind of the man of the house now. But upon his return from selling charcoal in town, one day he finds that his entire family has been massacred by either a creature or a demon or something, all except one, his sister Nezuko. He carries her into town hoping to get to a doctor here and there too because she is badly injured, but as he's doing so, she transforms outright into a demon and then attacks him. But then one of the Demon Slayers, whom he's never met before, shows up out of the blue and says, hey, you know what? I'm going to take her out just because she's a danger to everybody, and yeah, kid, it's my job. But he prostrates himself in front of the Demon Slayer and begs him to make sure that he can spare her life and that he will definitely find a cure to change her back from a demon into a human. At first, the Demon Slayer is very reluctant to accept this proposal here and there of having Tanjiro find a cure to transform Nezuko back from a demon into a human again. But he muzzles her and then releases her back into his care, and then sends him off to go train under the former water Hashira. Tanjiro then goes to train under Urokodaki-san, and he essentially learns a lot of the water breathing techniques and total concentration breathing. He does this over the course of 2 years, and essentially after 2 years of training, he undergoes a final induction test into the Demonslayer Corps, which he passes. And of course, throughout the series, we see him go through many more trials and tribulations, but one thing that does remain constant is his love for his sister and trying to make sure that he can go out and find a cure to change her back, because she is the only family that he has left. And speaking of his sister, let's talk about Nezuko. Nezuko is essentially our main female lead, and she's the eldest daughter of the Kamado family. She stays behind while Tanjiro is going out to sell charcoal in the nearby town, and essentially this turns out very badly for her as the entire family is attacked by the evil demon Muzan. We find out that when Muzan Kibutsuji attacks the entire family, that he infects her with some of his blood and transforms her into a demon. At first she is really violent, but we see something change in her as she's attacking Tanjiro. Some of her humanity kind of wakes up in her a little bit as she starts to recognize him, and she starts to cry as she's attacking him. And of course, when Demon Slayer Giyu sees this at the start of the show, when he basically runs into Tanjiro and Nezuko, that's the ultimate tipping point for him as far as like believing Tanjiro that he can actually do this. And after she is muzzled, she's still, even though she is docile, she does retain a lot of her superhuman strength, speed, and regenerative powers. Throughout this show, since she's got this bamboo muzzle in her mouth, she's only able to communicate here and there through gestures or maybe some sort of kind of noises here and there that would indicate displeasure or joy or a whole bunch of different emotions. But all the while, even though she is a demon, she is fiercely protective of her brother, choosing to make sure that she can do whatever she can to make sure that he is safe. And as Tanjiro is undergoing his training from Urokodaki-san, we find out that Urokodaki-san has undergone like suggestive hypnosis on her to have her see all humans as her family and all demons as enemies. Comes in pretty handy here and there too, especially when they're going out and fighting a lot of demons. Next of our main cast is Zenitsu Agetsuma, and oh my god, this guy. What? Zenitsu is a cowardly boy who joins the Demon Slayer Corps around the same time that Tanjiro does. But yeah, let's not sugarcoat this one. He's a coward. But despite lacking a whole lot of courage, he is still one of the most powerful demon slayers of the entire bunch, even though he doesn't believe in himself yet. A lot of his power is actually really displayed when he's either losing consciousness or in a major life or death situation. Studying under the former lightning Hashira, he essentially was taken under his wing to help him out with financial troubles. But during his training, several things happen to him. One, he does master one of the forms of lightning breathing techniques, which is pretty good for his former master. But he also gets struck by lightning, so his hair, even though it's depicted as blonde, it's not his natural hair color. His natural color was black until, you guessed it, struck by lightning and it transformed his hair into blonde? Damn, go figure. And as far as his personality goes, he gets a little bit over the top here and there too in terms of his cowardly nature, but we also find out he's a little bit of a womanizer who fails at wooing the women a lot. And it's hilarious. The next of our main characters is Inosuke Hashibara, and oh my god, this guy is loud, proud, and not afraid to show it. He's also in the same recruiting class as Tanjiro and Zenitsu, but at the same time, he was the first one to finish the initiation ceremony exam by basically running through and blowing through the entire thing. He's shown with an extremely muscular physique, and he's very skilled at hand-to-hand combat, and he is super fast despite being in his mid-teens. And of course, even looking at his picture and whatnot, he wears a boar's mask, which we find out later was taken from his late boar adoptive mother. Crazy. He didn't really know his human parents growing up here and there too, so he was raised in the wild by a bunch of boars, and kind of like a Pokemon Cubone story, has taken the head of his mother into battle with him. But beneath this mask over here lies a very pretty face, which he is very, very self-conscious about. He's got the long flowing hair and very, very pretty eyes that you might expect on a girl. And of course, this face is much to his dismay because he thinks that people are going to make fun of him for it, and they kind of do, maybe a little bit. but it's more so in his head than in everybody else's perception. He has a very short temper and a huge sense of pride, which has him charging into battle no matter whether they be friend or foe, and challenging whomever it is to battle. But as the story goes on, as he develops a little bit more relationship here and there too with Tanjiro and Zenitsu, he comes to understand human compassion and emotions here and there in so many situations. And then finally, the last bits of our main characters for the most part, I want to talk about Muzan Kibutsuji. Muzan is our primary antagonist, and we have no reason to doubt otherwise. He's the first of his kind, the original demon that was transformed about 1,000 years ago, and he can create many other demons by sharing his blood with them. As such, he's able to manipulate their cellular structure by injecting a lot of human beings with his blood in order to transform into demons, but at the same time, we see a lot of characteristics of him that make him very hard to spot for the Demonslayer Corps. He's able to shapeshift and kind of, transform himself from either different genders or different ages here and there too, so it's very hard to tell exactly who he is at any given moment. Kind of similar to Naraku and Inuyasha here and there too. I wonder where that influence came from. But make no mistake, he is the one who is responsible for murdering Tanjiro and Nezuko's entire family, and by transforming Nezuko into a demon. We find out that he leads a group of demons that are known as the 12 Demon Moons, and essentially this group of demons has been really giving a lot of grief to the Demon Slayers. And despite being a very powerful demon, Tanjiro actually runs into him fairly quickly in the show, as he runs into him in downtown Tokyo, basically living with a human wife almost and a child. We don't see too much of him throughout the show, and essentially he's able to escape Tanjiro's grasp in those few sequences here and there too, but we feel his influence throughout the entirety of the rest of the show. He sends out many of his demons here and there to challenge the Demon Slayers, and specifically Tanjiro, to battle here in the two, because he feels that he's way too powerful to even deal with this in the first place. And consequently, many of the demons that serve him are terrified of him because, one, he is super strong and powerful, but number two, he can kill them just like that and absorb a lot of their powers. He literally doesn't care about anybody else's lives except for his own, just as long as he gets what he wants. And that's what makes him a really good villain for the series. And now let's quickly touch upon some of our supporting characters here and there too. First up on our list is Gyo Tomioka, and this guy is the first Demon Slayer that Tanjiro encounters. We find out after he releases Nezuko back into Tanjiro's care that he is actually the current Water Hashira. He's an extremely capable and well-known member of the Demon Slayer Corps as a Hashira, and his abilities are absolutely off the charts. And even though he's very well known, according to Shinobu, who is one of the other Hashira, she says that he's not so well liked here and there too. He's normally very stoic, very quiet, very calculating, and essentially is not one to say much of anything unless it's super important. But make no mistake, his sense of justice and resolve is absolutely unmatched. Gotta love the guy. And then you have Shinobu Kocho, who's essentially the insect Hashira of the Demon Slayer Corps. Despite her own claim of not having enough physical strength to decapitate demons, she's actually insanely clever. She's developed a poison here and there from the wisteria plant and worked it into her blade, so she can kill demons that way. She also has used a lot of this ingenuity to come up with different antidotes to a lot of poisons that they've encountered. But even with all of that, she is a carefree and very playful personality who is not afraid to tease her fellow Hashiras and a lot of the other members of the Demon Slayer Corps. But despite having this carefree and playful personality, we actually find out that that's a mask that she's been wearing here and there to mask a lot of her hatred for demons. She lost her sister Kanae, who was the former Flower Hashira, to a bunch of demons way back when, and same thing with a couple of her followers, and she essentially became the head of the Butterfly Mansion household. But even with this tragedy, Shinobu presses on here and there too as a member of the Hashiras, as a member of the Demon Slayer Corps. The next character, actually, what I want to talk about, is Shinobu's direct successor in line to her, and that is Kano Suriyuri. Kano is one of the fellow Demon Slayers that graduated right around the same time that Tanjiro had graduated, and she takes up her place in the Butterfly Mansion. She's a very quiet girl with a very terrible upbringing. I mean, she was sold into slavery after being abused for years from her parents, and essentially, this was a silver lining for her because she was picked up by Kanae and Shinobu of the Butterfly House. From there, they trained her up in total concentration breathing and a lot of their techniques in order to slay demons, but she's also lacking a little bit in decisiveness. And before Kanae's passing, she actually comes up with a little simple solution for her in that Kanae gives Kanao, fun name comparison there, she gives her a coin so that when she's indecisive about something, she can flip it and either have it be heads or tails, and that would be her decision. But while the show progresses, we see Kanao develop a little bit more resolve as she interacts with Tanjiro and many of the other characters in developing a moral compass of her own. The next character I'd like to talk about is Tamayo. Now, Tamayo is a demon who is disguised as a human doctor. She reveals that she was transformed into a demon by Muzan himself, and essentially she was able to break his curse here and there by transfusing herself with human blood. And although consequently she still does need human blood here and there in order to kind of make sure that she's able to kind of maintain this very calm nature here in the two as a demon. Her big part in the story is that she heard Tanjiro out as far as him wanting to cure Nezuko and change her back into a human, and she basically believes that they can actually do this if they collect a couple of things. One is Nezuko's blood, which is very easily obtainable in this situation, but the second is the blood of demons. They're very close to Muzan. She's very important to the story in that Tanjiro sends her blood every once in a while when he encounters a lot of demons that Muzan sends his way. And then last but not least of our characters, we have Kaguya Ubuyasashiki, that's a mouthful, who is the 97th leader of the Demonslayer Corps. Kaguya has a curse mark that's on him which causes a deformity on his face that is slowly making its way down his body. And this is a curse that is slowly scarring him because his family produced the original demon, Muzan. But even as the curse is slowly decaying and destroying his body, his atonement is building up the Demonslayer Corps for the sin of producing the original demon. And as such, Kaguya is very calm, very soft-spoken, and very tactful with a lot of his relationships. He carries enormous respect among the Demon Slayers, and even referring to a lot of them as his children. He's also extremely intelligent, and he picks and chooses his battles very carefully so as not to harm his own people, but he's the kind of leader that you would want in any organization that you want to run. And again, guys, that is our main cast of characters. We have a lot more to cover in terms of the plots and also the production quality and soundtrack of this anime, but I wanted to give you guys this much here and there in this two-part episode so that you can get the very best from me. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, and comment on this video if you love the anime. We're going to be talking about even more of this stuff in video 2, which is going to be linked up right over here. And if you'd like to check out some of our other anime reviews, here's another really good one in Fruits Basket way down here. But we will see you guys very soon in the concluding second part of this review as we get into it with the next one. See you soon.